Alright, so for today's video, I have something to talk about having to do with the dev talk in the case of Season 2 and what they're going to be giving us, essentially. I do still have some gripes as to what they have presented us, right? There's a lot of good things that they've showed, and a lot of people, there are a lot of people that don't like what they've seen, and I agree with them in a lot of cases. I'm just like a little bit happy with some of the things that they are going to be bringing to the table in Season 2. Like, for example, characters that are very stance heavy can now do their heat bursts and heat smashes in stance. That's good for characters like, let's say, Leroy or Asusena. Well, not so much about Asusena, but let's take Zafina or Yoshimitsu. Characters that are very stance heavy, they can now go into a heat burst or heat smash. That is actually a really good thing. But they haven't addressed anything when it comes to how heat works mechanically. And I mean in the sense that in terms of tracking, because tracking is one of the biggest issues in this game when it comes to the heat. For example, heat bursting. Heat bursting is still a problem in this game when it comes to tracking, because a lot of the times you could be trying to step an attack, in this case the heat burst, and you still get clipped anyways. Even if you're already preemptively stepped to the side or the correct side, or any side, because they mentioned in one of the updates, the past update, that they supposedly made heat bursting more easier, if that's the right way of saying it, when it comes to stepping the move to both sides. But that's not the case. All around, universally, there are times that when you're trying to attack, depending on your frame data, that if you were to attempt to go for a heat burst, depending how advantageous you are in terms of your frames, you can still clip the opponent, or the opponent can still clip you. Unless it's like, let's say, at 0 on block, or maybe +1 on block, or some shit like that. Something between the lines of maybe +3 to +4, maybe. You can still probably step or sidewalk heat bursting. But in some scenarios, some characters, there are exceptions, that when you try to step them, even when you are perfectly not in a situation where you're not at a disadvantage frame-wise, you'll still get clipped by their moves. Brine is one big example. Dragunov is another character too. These are characters that have really good heat bursting because they can just track you to their weakest side, which is their right side. And they're not the only ones, I'm just mentioning these two specifically. And then when it comes to heat smashes all around have to be toned down when it comes to tracking, and they have not addressed that either in the dev talk. So are they going to address it maybe in terms of character usage? So let's say if you're somebody who is playing King, and once the update comes in, they're going to nerf his heat smash in terms of tracking. So it's going to be character specific that they're going to be nerfing, but not everywhere. Well, not universally to all the characters. If that's why they're leaving it to later on, we can then see exactly the patch notes once Season 2 hits, then maybe we'll see something having to do with tracking being nerfed in particular to the characters, and not as a system-wide type of change. Maybe that's why they haven't addressed it in the dev talk. Now, when it comes to, let's say, how heat works in terms of heat engaging or heat bursting on block. So if you're +5 when you're doing, let's say, a heat dash, or if you're +17 when you get the heat engager, or when you're +1 or 2 depending on hit or on block. So these things have not been addressed either. So either they're going to keep it that way, which it seems likely that's the case. I would have hoped to see that they would at least reduce that particular portion of the game, make the game more healthy, so it's not very mix up heavy in the game. But it still seems like that's the case, especially when what we saw in Anna's trailer. The fact that now, while you're doing a heat engager, if you press 1, 2, or 3, you can go into an instant full crouching state, and then you can go for whatever full crouching mix-up you want to go for. That already is telling the entire community, especially the ones that are very vocal about the heat system, myself and other people like me, like, let's say, Blackheart, Mike Hollow, Chad the Third, Finn T. There's a lot of individuals that, they have their gripes when it comes to the heat system. And this is one particular thing that I just don't understand why they're doing. I think it's cool. It's just that I feel that in terms of the health of the competitive side of the game, in terms of also the casual side of the game, people are not going to like it. People are not going to like the fact that you can go into an instant full crouch and then do a 50-50 mix-up against the opponent. I main Yoshimitsu. If I'm going into a full crouch state, immediately, this gives me ample time to buffer in Samurai Cutter against you. And if you're not quick enough, you're gonna eat up a Samurai Cutter, the unblockable sword sweep. So imagine that you have to worry about a sword sweep that's gonna come out even faster than before while I do a heat engager against you and you're minus 17. Now it's gonna be worse. Now again, for me as a Yoshi player, hey, I'm gonna attempt it. I'm definitely gonna do it. I'm not gonna not do it. But that's the fact of the matter. They're still emphasizing this heavy 50-50, force 50-50 type of trope that they're bringing into the table in Tekken 8. And people do not like that. They were hoping that they were going to tone it down, but it seems like they're actually amping it up. I don't understand the mentality of the developers. I don't think they're really listening to the feedback of the players, or maybe they're listening to something else, some kind of analytical like chart that says that players like the way the game plays now, which I'm going to assume is mostly the casual players, but even the casuals don't like how 50-50 heavy the game is. So I don't understand that. And then moving on to a lot of positive things, sidestepping. Sidestepping in general has been immediately buffed, like amply buffed up when it comes to the fact that now you can step while you're crouched to the opposing side, to the foreground. Because before you couldn't do that. The only other game that, from what I was mentioned above, was Tekken 4, that in that game they introduced the ability to actually sidestep or side walk to the opposite side if you're in a crouching state. If I remember correctly, I'm not too sure. But if that's actually true, that's a huge positive. In Tekken 8's case, how many times have you been hit by Kazuya's forward 4? Or Leo's, I think is down 1 or down 2, the plus frame move, and then he goes into, let's say, down forward 2. I mean, I don't know if you can still step it, but I'm just mentioning like moves that force you on crouch, and you can't even escape the attack because you can't really step to the foreground. Or if you're playing on player 2 side, you can, to the background that is, because that's the correct side. But let's say if you're playing on player 1 side, which I tend to play, you can't really step to the foreground. You just take the L and that's it, and just block the move or take the hit. Either one of the two. So that's something that I just don't understand why they haven't done it in previous games, but it's great that they're actually adding it in. Again, this is why a lot of people think this is quite historical. This has been the biggest change to sidesteps since, again, Tekken 4. Really positive change. I do like that change. Now, in terms of other things that they're going to be doing, like power crushes being nerfed inadvertently to characters that have heat engagers, the property itself, placed onto their power crushes, like Azucena, Shaheen, Victor's, power crushes, where they're able to basically just go into it whenever they want and it's safe, and it also grants them a heat engager on hit. The fact that they now are removing that is a huge positive. Now, we'll have to wait and see exactly how Victor's and Shaheen's and other characters like them, how they'll basically substitute their heat engagers to other moves in their kit. Because now it seems like, the power crushes don't have their heat engager properties. This is a very positive change. It makes the game a lot more healthier, so these characters won't be spamming their power crushes at you and at any given time. And then the reduction of chip damage. Now, again, I like that they're gonna be nerfing chip damage all around, and this is a huge positive change. But the fact that they still emphasize chip damage gives me the impression that in the future there's gonna be characters that are gonna have special mechanics that they can still do tons of chip damage, but it won't work the same way that we think, right? Like in an example, and it's just a complete guess. I'm just making assumptions here. In the Anna trailer, we've seen where she goes into a rocket launch type of attack, right? And then Nina is placed in this poisoned state. She seems like she's poisoned, but we can't really tell because we don't see the HP bar. But in the dev talk, they showcased a similar move that placed the opposing character in this poisoned state. Again, we say poison because it's all purple, so we can't really tell if it's actually poison or not. But it could be just some kind of debuff. But what does that debuff will really do for Anna? Is it gonna open up some new attack? Is it gonna give her a free counter hit launcher on some certain moves? Or is it just that maybe even guard breaks the opponent and gives her a free launch or some shit? We don't know. So if this is something that is applicable in terms of chip damage, then I would imagine in the future they're gonna give characters these kinds of ailments that can allow you to do more chip damage, since they inadvertently, made it so that chip damage is heavily reduced, both in the normal state and in heat state, and depending if you're in rage as well. So again, I don't know how that's going to be looking like, but that's just my overall predictions as to what they could probably do in the future. Then there is the factor of the rank changes. Again, amazing changes. I think that what they're doing with the rank matchmaking system is great. Though there are some people on Twitter that don't really like the idea of the new ranks for God of Destruction 1 to 8. They don't like it. I'm okay with it because they're adding at least new ranks, but I understand the feelings of the community that it's kind of lazy work. Like God of Destruction 1, God of Destruction 2, and so forth. Why not just give them actual names, like pretty cool names? There was a one mention in Twitter where they, or X as it's called, where the last rank, like God of Destruction 8, or Infinity as they call it or whatever, where instead of being called God of Destruction 8, why not call it the True Tekken King or some shit like that? Something really cool that will be pretty cool to signify that you're actually a master of the game, not just calling it God of Destruction 8 or Infinity. That's just my overall gripes and what the community may think of the same thing about the ranks being added to the game. But besides that, uh, I just think that what they're doing with the rank, like for example, filtering in how exactly you can matchmake against other players the same rank as you, instead of just being that it's 2 ranks above or 2 ranks below. That is also another particular change that I think that a lot of players that are trying to rank up quickly can now actually do without having to face people that are actually weaker than them or just rank below them and so forth. And the fact too that instead of relying on Tekken prowess and now relying on your highest character's rank, this is also a positive change. But I do think that players that are higher ranked, that are facing other players playing on their ults, right? That if you were a Fujin and you're facing somebody who is God of Destruction or Tekken God Supreme or Tekken God or whatever the case is, right? Or even the newest rank that they're going to be adding in. A lot of high level players that are playing on their main characters that are already at the highest like 3 ranks, Tekken God ranks, they're probably not going to rematch you. Because if you're Fujin or Frijin or whatever the case is, and again, because now they changed how Tekken prowess and the ranks work in terms of matchmaking. If I'm Fujin with my old character and I'm playing against somebody who is, again, TGS or GOD, whatever the case is, and I win, I'm going to receive massive amounts of points for winning against a higher ranked opponent. But they're going to lose a lot of points in regards to losing against me being a lesser ranked opponent, right? Because it's no longer going to be about Tekken prowess. It's going to be who is your highest ranked character. But it doesn't matter because your character is going to be, let's say Lars. I'm playing Lars and I'm Tekken King now in Lars, and I fight against a God and I win against him. I'm receiving a lot of points, but they're going to be penalized by losing a bunch of points, losing to a Tekken King Lars. They're not going to like that, and this gives me the impression there's going to be a lot of one and dunning happening in rank. There's going to be a lot of one and dones. Again, this is a positive change, but it still feels like it's one step forward, one step back type of shit. Or maybe it's like we can there really is no way for the developers to make a positive change when it comes to the matchmaking and filtering in that would work for all players, right? There really is no proper way unless, I mean, there probably are some ideas that the community has, like maybe allow a proper elo system into the game instead of like what we have now. But again, I can tell you right now, high ranked players are not gonna like playing against other players that have, are playing on their ults and then winning against them and then losing a bunch of points in the current ranks that they're in. That's all I'm saying. So a lot of players are not going to like that. And then when it comes to what else, basically, that I'm probably forgetting here, is that the rank reset. The rank reset, people have been asking about a rank reset since beginning, because people have been mentioning that, okay, if Season 1, hopefully in Season 2, will receive some kind of rank reset. So that way players can restart again, but then, a lot of casuals are going to be bitching and moaning, because now they're going to be facing a lot of players that are higher level, at the beginning ranks. But now, instead of how they're doing it, is that depending on your current highest rank, you'll be placed at a specific placement in the rank system, instead of just being like you're gonna start right from the beginning again, right? So that's nice. It's definitely gonna motivate a lot of players now to try to hit their highest rank, so that way once they hit with Season 2, whatever is the current placement for your rank, they'll like to be benchmarked there. Is what I'm trying to get at. So that's, again, a nice change. And overall, there's a lot of other changes that they're going to be doing in Season 2, but a lot of not other good mentions, like in the case of, let's say, the online experience. They haven't talked about how they're going to improve the online. Like, can you guys tell me, in the comment section, I'm actually asking you guys, if you guys, feel up to it, do you think that Tekken 8's online is better than Tekken 7's? Like, be honest with yourself and, give me your overall anecdotes. Do you think the Tekken 8's online system is better? Like, in terms of like the connection and the rollback and all that stuff. Do you think it's really good? Do you think it's an improvement to Tekken 7? Or do you think that it's a downgrade? In my opinion, from my experience playing Tekken 7, I felt that the online was better. In my opinion, I felt that it was better than Tekken 8's. That is one thing that I am going through a lot of right now, that I feel like since the last few months, the online has been quite shit. It's not like at release. I feel like at release the game was better online, and then now it's like with each new patch, the game has been progressively getting worse when it comes to the connections. So I don't know what they're doing, but something about it is getting worse. Hopefully they will address it in the future, but seeing that they have not said anything during the Tekken talk, I feel like they're not going to do anything anytime soon. So I guess we have to basically just take it into the chin and just not do nothing about it. And yeah, that's gonna feel very negative to a lot of players. And then there's also the factor of, oh yeah, the optimization on PC. Like I've heard supposedly that a lot of players play on console, on their PlayStation 5s or even PlayStation 4s, that on PC it's not as optimized as you think. Now in my case, I'm running a lot of different types of software on Tekken 8 that basically is helping the game out, so that way the game feels better, it reduces the overall lag or the frame drops and all that shit, so that way my game still looks pretty good, right? That's why I get a lot of like comments from players that are like, oh, your game looks really nice, what are you doing to make the game look better? And I usually tell them that I'm running different softwares that are actually changing the DSLL and everything else graphically, even changing the ini files of the game to make it look better, so that way the game can still look really good, but still, reduce the overall frame drops that the game may cause because of my system. And I'm not running a really shitty system. I'm running a Ryzen 9 5900, I think it's called, X, and a 2070 and 32 gigabytes of RAM. So I shouldn't really be having any particular issues with the game, but there are times that I do, right? And this is probably all because of the Unreal Engine having issues. That's probably what's causing it. So yeah, I don't know why they haven't addressed anything when it comes to optimization for PC. But again, maybe that's something that's very low priority for them, so that's why they're not going to really do anything for it. And then there's other things too that I'm probably like forgetting to really explain in this video, but that's basically my biggest gripes with the game right now. Like they can do something perfect with this game. This game can definitely be very well polished if they actually took priority over the things that, a lot of the feedback coming from the community. Like if only they can shift between all the shitty feedback and then all of the good feedback to get to the good feedback to then improve the game. They seem to be prioritizing mostly on the marketing of the game, the business side of the game, instead of actually the gameplay side of the game. Again, Season 2, for what they showcased in the Tekken talk, yeah, they're great changes, but it doesn't feel enough to be something that is like regarded as, oh, amazing, oh my god, it's historical, whatever the shit is, right? Especially seeing that they've actually went ahead and delayed Season 2. So now we have to wait until April, I think it's April 1st, until they actually fully release Season 2 for everybody. And that's why a lot of people are giving the impression that they're going to do an April Fool's type thing, but I don't think that's true. I think they're actually releasing it in April 1st, and then that's where Anna's going to be coming out too, so Anna's going to be coming out on April 1st. I mean, it says March 31st, but in reality it's going to be like around April 1st. That's where she's going to be coming out. And then for those that don't have the character pass, they're going to have to wait until 3 days because everybody else gets early access. I don't understand this fucking thing of companies trying to sell DLC and whatnot, or season passes or character passes, and they always make it so that these players have access to the characters 3 days or even a week earlier than everybody else. The fact of the matter is, players that are buying the characters separately from the fight pass or character pass, season pass, all that shit, they still have to pay more, because if they want the other characters too, if they're not too sure they want to actually waste like $30 or $40 for their season pass, they will have to waste more money just to get these characters, right? Separately. That also includes the sages as well. That's also separate. So I don't understand the mentality of basically just... Either way, that's the other thing too as well. In my opinion, I kind of would have wished that they'd done something similar to Street Fighter 6, where they actually showcase all the characters that they're going to actually release. Hell, they don't even have to like release their actual full portraits of the characters. Like a silhouette will be at least something. A silhouette will at least be something, right? To tell us, hey, we can try to make a comparison to the body size and shape and all that shit, to see whether or not if this isn't actually a new character or a legacy character that we all like to see. But they're not doing that at all, which is, I feel like, in my opinion, it's a big fail. A lot of people think that it's to hype up the player base and all that shit. But in my opinion, if Street Fighter 6 did it differently and they're still hyping their game and their game is still hype, why can't Tekken do the same thing? The company's already gone through a lot of controversy. If they do something positive, maybe it will bring players and make them think, okay, the company seems to actually give a shit about its consumers. But you know, that's just my overall opinion. Like, I could be very wrong here, or maybe you think my take is dumb, but I just think that that would be at least a nice touch if they were to do that. And yeah, that's about it, really. I mean, I'm hoping that season 2 does a lot of great changes, balance wise, to characters, as well as they're going to be adding some new moves. They already showcased what Asusana can do in the Death Talk, the Tekken Talk. She can now go into her Liberator, I think, stance from running 3-2. And Nina now has a completely new move, which is pretty cool. So I'm hoping that there's a lot of new added changes and new moves to all characters. Not like just one new move, but like every character will receive like multiple new moves or new changes, quality of life changes to their kit. So that's one thing that I'm hoping for, because I'm hoping that Yoshimitsu receives some pretty cool stuff. Because we all know, because the community does not like Yoshimitsu at all, and I understand completely, because people don't like getting, you know, hit by Flash and, you know, the unblockables and all that stuff. And I understand. I definitely understand. But I hope that alternatively, they're gonna give something to him that will be cool, not something broken, just something cool, and that it has some utility that it can work well with if you apply it correctly. That's what I would like to see for Yoshimitsu. Something cool and something that has utility, even if they nerf a lot of the other things about him. Also looking forward to maybe Victor too, because I do think that he's going to be a little bit more nerfed in some parts of his gameplay, but we're seeing some cool new moves. Like, I'm hoping some other new cool sword moves to see in his gameplay. And looking forward to Lars as well as Claudio. I like a lot of, like, you know, the supernatural, mystic, like, you know, power-up type shit, like anime shit. I like that shit. I come from Soul Calibur, and I also come from Guilty Gear as well, so I like to see these characters that are very anime-ish. We see some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, that's about all. So yeah, if you guys like me talking about, you know, just yapping about shit, then, you know, give the video a like if you want to. Subscribe to see more of my shit, and yeah, stay tuned, stay safe.